so that everyone has a
Yes,
place and they know when. I'd like to make the motion that we begin with two of our council members, and then to mix it up, allow Nathan to be the third individual that gets to ask question, and then followed by 3 other council members. And I just put together a quick order. If it's sufficient, it would be obviously our lady council ladies can go first. I'll give them the honor, and that would be Frida and Chandra, and then Nathan Driver could be third, followed by David and Tony and myself. If that order suits everybody, that way we would all know what order the next round. If we had a second round of questions, everybody would still have the chance to ask a second or third question to each candidate. If that would be sufficient for everybody.
I don't know if you need a motion. I mean, we could just agree. That's fine.
Okay.
I agree.
Let's go with me.
Okay, sounds like we're all in agreement. So does everyone have their questions ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Keisha, if you will bring in the first candidate.
All right.
Okay, it looks like our first candidate of the evening is Mr. Garrett Flatt. Garrett, I think you know everyone here, so we'll probably, maybe for the record, we need to just have you do an opening statement, and then we will start with the interview questions for you.
Good afternoon, Councilman. My name is Garrett Flatt. I am a president right now, the interim chief for the Westmoreland Police Department. I've been with the Westmoreland Police Department on the 6th of this month. Just started my 6th year here with the Westmoreland Police Department. And I live in Lafayette, Tennessee with my wife, Angie Flatt, and been in law enforcement for 25 years, part-time, reserve, and that's my experience.
Okay, I have lost my video here, so if there's not any questions or comments, we'll start with Ms. Carter.
Okay, thanks, Garrett, for being with us tonight and for your interest in Westmoreland. I got some questions that I want to ask, but we're just going to ask one at a time and go around, and everyone asks a question first and then start a second round. Okay, Garrett, what are a couple of significant accomplishments or programs you have successfully implemented in your police career?
Well, I have started off as a reserve deputy for a sheriff's department, and I've started at the low end and gradually worked my way. I've set goals in my life, and the first major goal, besides being a sergeant or whatever over a patrol, while with the Westmoreland Police Department, one of my goals that I had set for myself was becoming a detective, getting into the criminal investigations division. This position that I am in now, been appointed in February the 20th, is interim chief of police. That was my another main goal that I have set forth in my career and accomplished. And my dream is to be permanent chief of police for the Westmoreland Police Department. That's my ultimate goal that I'm searching for.
Thank you. Kendra?
Okay. My question for you, which again, I'm thank you for being interested in being here with us tonight. My question is, how would you describe your management style?
I would describe my management style. I believe into looking into things, not necessarily jumping the gun on something that you hear. I believe looking into something, making a great decision, or what I deem to be a great decision for the circumstance at hand that I may be dealt with. I'm not one to jump into something and just go on someone's word. I'm a slow mover, and sometimes the process takes a while, but I believe a body needs to look into the situation that they're dealt with very thorough, and be very cautious before they make a decision, and take things slow, not rush into quick judgment and stuff like that, Miss Wilkers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Chief. How are you?
Fine, Mr. Driver. How are you?
Doing well. So my question is, how do you plan to, what would be your plan to develop and retain good quality officers? As you know, our turnover rate's been pretty high in this city for a while. So what would be your way of developing younger officers and keeping them in the long term?
That is a good question, Mr. Driver. I think the citizens, and here in the last 2 or 3 weeks, it has been put out there. One of my accomplishments once I become interim chief of police here for Westmoreland was to get the pay raise up. That is a very vital thing in this day and time for getting good qualified officers for your department, honest officers that will stay with you. From end of February up to a couple weeks ago, when the council finally voted for the $2 for my officer raise that I really fought hard for, and thankful to the council for seeing my reasoning and giving my employees and backing me with that decision. To answer your question, I think the pay will draw more qualified people, and due to our size, our population here in Westmoreland, through other surrounding agencies, with that raise, we've bypassed 3 or 4 of the local agencies with that new raise. And with that said, I feel that they will be more qualified candidates and good citizens, or good police officers for the citizens of Westmoreland to be coming on with the Westmoreland Police Department due to the pay raise and the benefits and stuff that the city offers to its employees. That answers your question.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Once again, Chief Flatt, thank you for your interest in being here with us tonight. And the question I have, you probably done answered part of it, but there's not a lot that can be, due to the size of our department, not a lot there could be done, but there are things that can be done, I think. But what are your professional goals and plans for Westmoreland, City of Westmoreland, and City Police Department?
My plans is once again, as you stated, Mr. Leith, one of mine, and what I worked out for, like I spoke with Mr. Driver about a while ago, just a moment ago, was the pay raise, and we got that, and we've got good vehicles. We still need another or 2 to get the fleet but we've come a long way from when I started here 6 years ago to we are right now. But I've put in for some new equipment. We've got some outdated equipment that needs to be upgraded and updated. I've put in for that. And my goal is to, like I said, find good, honest, dependable officers that wants to represent Westmoreland and its city to the finest and give them the best equipment and training and stuff that the department can offer for the employees.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Platt, let's see what we got. Actually, I'm gonna have like a two-part question here for you. Tell me what 3 or 4 important characteristics of a leader are. And then what is your strong leadership of those 3 or 4 that you mentioned? The leadership characteristics, what do you think they are that we should be looking for in a chief?
Well, a chief, first of all, needs to have and know the respect of his officers, have the respect of his or her officers. He needs to know them. He needs to be familiar with the citizens and residents of the jurisdiction that he is held to uphold and protect. Needs to be needs to be a calm demeanor. Doesn't need to be angry when he comes into work or whatever. Needs to what the chief represents, his officers will follow the chief. If they see a chief in a good mood or doing things good, that makes them want to be out there, be active and get involved with the citizens and stuff with the department. To
And
answer
well, that's, and what would you consider, what's your strong leadership skill you bring to the table of the ones you mentioned?
well, my experience, and like I said, the calmness, the demeanor of the individual, the leader of the department plays a major factor. I feel that I have proved myself to the citizens in that way and to the council how I perform and do my job.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief Flatt, for being here. I just want to say thank you for what you do. And my question is, if you were to be the chief of police, what kind of view would you want the citizens of Westmoreland to have of their police department? I know you've touched on that a little bit already, but if you don't mind, just kind of expand on that a little bit. What kind of view would you want the citizens to have of our police department?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Since I've been in the position as interim police chief, I have what I call a open door. I want my officers to be able to come in and talk to me about anything. If I can help them or can't help them, I want that open door policy. I feel that helps build the department. And also, I want my citizens, if they come into the police department and want to speak with me, I want to be there as much as I can. And I want to be able for them to speak to me and discuss stuff that's going on in the city, or maybe one of my officers in the department is doing something or not up to the best officer that they can be. And I just want to, I want my citizens to know that I'm honest, I'm trustworthy, and my door is always open for them to speak to me.
Thank you. And congratulations, you just made it through round 1.
Right.
Ms. Frida, we'll start with you again.
Okay. Tony, are you doing the dishes in the background?
Carol? What? Are you doing the dishes? Yeah. You need to stop.
I could hear dishes rattling. I don't know if anybody else could hear it or not. Okay, Garrett, as you know, managing your department's budget is a responsibility as a chief. And as you know, the city's budget runs from July 1st through June the 30th. You're allocated X amount of dollars for your department's budget. Okay, let's do a scenario here. You're at the end of January and you have spent 75% of your funds for the budget year. How do you propose to keep your department running for 5 more months with only 25% funds to run on?
I would go through the different line items that is in the budget, as we have line items for each specific thing. I would go through those very cautiously, and things that I had to have to make the department run and keep the department running, that would be the number one thing that I would be focused on. And if it's something that we could live without and didn't have to have my officers in need or whatever situation that would be, I would look through those areas also and pick what I could do without until the new budget come and was passed in July.
But don't you think that needs to be done all through the year, not just when you're getting tight with your money? Shouldn't you be watching your line items every month when the financial statement comes out?
I do agree with that, but you asked, I was down to 5 months, what would I do? I agree that we need to be watching the line items throughout the whole year. Yes, ma'am. But you said we was in January and had like 5 months left. What would I do? And that was what I would do with the question that you asked me, Ms. Carter.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my question goes along kind of with my management question I asked earlier. How do you feel about delegating responsibilities and authority to your subordinates?
I think that is a good thing. Each one, if they do a good job and they see a promotion coming up and they have qualifications for that promotion, I am a big supporter of that. But there, once again, you need to look at that individual's training and qualifications for that position that he or she is putting in for or applying for, and make that decision there. But I support, I think if you work hard, you go to school, you have the qualifications, and that opening does come, you should be able to put in for it and go through the process, and you should be rewarded for your training and your schools and your qualifications for that specific job that you're acquiring.
Open to and things so they can receive that experience for whatever they possibly may want to go into. Is that what you're saying?
You cut out a little bit, Ms. Wilkerson.
So you're willing to give some responsibility to on things to try to earn some experience? Am I making sense?
I think I understand. And the cutting out and stuff that was happening. Yes, ma'am. I'm for I'm for that. If you have the schooling and the experience for that job qualification, yes, ma'am. I don't, if that answers your question. Or,
well, I mean, I was more saying, would you give them opportunities to earn that experience?
Sure. I'm
That's what I'm
100% supportive If somebody wants it and trying and doing everything, yes, ma'am. If they
That's what I was
if they
asking.
didn't make it the first time, I'm supported for them to learn it some more and get more experience and reapply again for that. Yes, ma'am. Very supportive.
Okay.
So I'm gonna piggyback off Chandra a little bit here. What do you see? What is your vision for your support staff and the department going forward? How would you like to see it panned out, and how would you like to see what supervisors you'd like to have under you and your officer staffing levels?
I would like to, of course, the command staff and the supervisors and stuff like that is, of course, several things you need to look for. Again, if they're qualified to be up for that promotion, and they should be given the opportunity to do that. I think that you don't need to put I think that they ought to be a 2-year minimum for a sergeant, 4-year for a lieutenant, or I think there needs to be some years in there instead of just putting somebody in there that may be your best friend or something. Go through it and get their qualifications and set a year for each category for your sergeant, your command staff. And my goal is, with the pay that we just got, more applications will come in, and I can get my department up to 8 or 9 fully staffed officers that are willing and dedicated to stay with the Westmoreland Police Department for a long time, instead of, like you stated earlier in the past, I know since I've been here, we've had several, I've seen several come and go due to certain different circumstances. But my goal is to find a good qualified team who wants to be here, wants to work and be dedicated to the Westmoreland Police Department and remain that quality of people here to build the department where we won't face that issue again. That's my goal and my plans.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Chief, I know that situations can change, your daily routine, it can change with one phone call, but there are times that, have you ever had to try to prioritize your daily workload? And tell me how you done that with the activities. But I understand that situations can change. I guess what I'm asking, have you ever prioritized your workload for that day, or to make myself clear, or like you got certain tasks that you do every day, and which ones are the most important to you to get done? And then,
to answer your question, I'll answer it 2 or 3 different ways, Mr. Leaf.
right.
At night when I go home, I have a plan for the next day when I come in. A lot of times that plan gets diverted from what you had laid out, like you stated earlier. So answer your question, yes, I have had many days, especially in this profession, that you have to change around, and maybe what you was gonna do last, you done first, and what you was gonna do first, you had to wind up doing last down at the end of the day. But the number one priority in doing such is prioritizing your calls or your plans. I've always worked to take my important calls and important plans and get them and focus on them first, and just go down through there, and which is less on priority, put that towards the end of the day or whatever. But I believe you should definitely, the plans definitely change from day to day, and you should prioritize the most serious things that you need to handle be top of your agenda for that day. If that answers your question.
Thank you.
It's kind of like going to a garage sale on Saturday afternoon. Y'all can. Sure you've thought about what you're going to do. Work? Have you thought how you might involve?
You're freezing up, Mr. Bennell, and I
Thought about any
can't
of that?
understand nothing.
Try it again. Community police work?
I can't understand you, Mr. Bennell. You're froze up.
I'll be right back.
I think it is too.
Hear him just fine, I believe.
It's on the City Hall end. Phone there. There we go. I think
I don't know why it's got like good signal right there.
the way because of the extra time. There's some of the so we just have 2 candidates to interview tonight. So I didn't know if you want to use a few extra minutes and do another round of questions, or if you were going to stay with the 30 minutes that you discussed.
I'm good with staying. I'm good with my 2 questions already.
Okay,
I've got-
I'm open to what y'all have.
If we can do another round and we can select, if someone doesn't have a question on the 3rd round, they can just say they're good. That because I've got 4 questions that I'm trying to skate around, but I don't anticipate in 4 rounds. So if we do a 3rd round, it can be whoever wishes to ask another question.
Okay.
I've got more questions that I want to ask.
So we can just do a 3rd
We'll
round.
Let's do one more round if we get everyone at City Hall unfrozen here. Chief, I guess you're ready to take it back over again. Now we'll let Tony re-ask his question.
Okay, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now, Chief?
I can, Mr. Bennell.
All right. You hear a lot about the community involvement and community police work, and I'm sure you thought about what you're going to do if you become the chief permanently. Any thoughts on how you would involve the community or educate them?
I believe to be a leader, be a chief of the department, I have things that I am going to put in place if given the opportunity to become the full-time chief of police. As many of y'all may know or do know, I am a person who don't like to sit around a desk, or I like to be out in the public. I like to be communicating with the citizens, and not only the citizens, but other leaders in other parts of the county, other agencies. I've always been a big talker, and I'm not afraid to talk or ask, or really never have met a stranger. I believe that is an important, as being a chief in a community where it's, I'm particular to small areas. I've been fortunate to work in small cities and small areas in my law enforcement. And that is, when I first started out, was one of my goals. I never had a desire to work for a bigger department or bigger agency. Number one being because you can't know your community. You can't learn your community in a bigger area as you can a smaller area. that's what I like. I like to get out and introduce myself and talk to people because I have had this to happen in several times in small communities. They may not talk to someone else, but if you get out there and you get familiar with the citizens of your community and the leaders of your community, and you have something to go on inside your community, someone will come up and talk to you, and I find that to be a vital information system where you are fortunate to know your citizens in your community, and you get out at there where it's to go into ball games or activities or banquets or whatever it may be. That's something I'm big on. I love getting out and meeting new people and learning their ideas and letting me tell them what my plans are and get input from the citizens and leaders of that community. And it's beneficial for not only the chief of police or whatever, it's beneficial for the citizens and stuff. So.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Appreciate it.
Chief Flat, what do you want to accomplish the first 30 days if you get hired as chief of police?
My first thing is getting qualified officers and getting my department back to full staff. Everything else during my interim chief, as far as equipment and stuff, a lot of that has been taken care of and getting taken care of as we go. But that if I am blessed to get the full-time chief of police position for the city of Westmoreland, that is my number one goal. Get my department fully staffed or a lot better staffed so we can better protect the citizens of our community, the business people, and have more people out on patrol to handle calls and serve what we're supposed to do. It's serve the citizen and serve the public and protect them with a better staff department. That is my goal, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, Garrett, it's very critical to the chief's position to know your citizens and to develop a close relationship with them. I would say for Westmoreland, this could be around 50% of your success. The other 50%, I think, lies in your skills and your experience. And just by knowing you, I have no doubt that you have already mastered the 50% on the relationships of our citizens in town. However, I feel that you are lacking in some of the skills and experience needed to be a successful chief. How do you think you can accomplish gaining these skills? And I know you get experience by your term in office, but how do you think you can develop some of these skills to accomplish your success, to be successful?
Like you stated, the 50-50, I feel like my communication with my citizens here in the city is way far more than 50%. I think I feel that it's higher than 50% as far as me knowing the citizens and having their support and them supporting me and what. To answer your second half of the 50%, I have learned a lot. I didn't know, as far as running a department and the experience, I had no problem with that, but I was lacking a little bit in the financial end of it. But these last 4.5 months, I have learned a lot. Still got a lot to learn, but number one, I'm not too humble to ask for help. And I feel that that is a major thing. A lot of people don't ask for help. If I don't know or I'm lacking in something, I'll ask for help. And that is a good quality of mine. I'm not afraid to ask for help because I by no means know everything, and there's no one out there that by no means knows how to do everything. But I hope that I have proved to you council members and you, Ms. Carter, over the last 4.5 months, I've asked areas that I needed help and been fortunate to receive that help. I'm not too good to receive more training and learn, and I'm willing to learn in the areas that I'm lacking in. But I think if you ask, the help will be given to you if you're not afraid to ask for it.
Okay, thank you.
I do not have any more questions right now.
I have a question. How would you deal with a problem employee that is causing issues within your department or out in the with the community?
Well, in my 4.5 months that I have been interim chief, Mr. Driver, I have had that to come before me on 3 occasions so far. Number one, I believe in the policy and procedure. There's some things that needs changed in the policy and procedure, and I will make those changes if I get the chance to make those changes. But I am a big believer. Do I know the policy and procedure front and back? No. And if anyone in the department says, I know it word for word, front and back, they don't. But I think that you need to be familiar with the policy and procedures and have it accessible to you where if you doubt something, you can refer to that policy and procedure. As I stated a while ago, I'm not a big person to jump into something. I believe if a complaint comes in about an officer from the citizen or an officer within inside the department has a problem with another officer, I believe we should sit down as face to face and try to see what the problem is and get it worked out. If all it possible, if it is a policy and procedure violation, you go find that violation in there. And I have a form that I use. It has 4 or 5 different behavioral issues on it. And I'll start with the reason for the write-up where it's a behavioral issue, policy and procedure issue, and start out if it can be verbal correction, we do that. But as you know, Mr. Driver, in your profession, you've been in it several years also. There are some things that we can't verbally work out and we have to go to a written or suspension. I believe in a thorough investigation, and if something is there where it's good or bad, you take what the violation is and you work with it if you can. If you can't, then in this case, you'll take it before the council and go with their recommendations. You provide the evidence to them and leave it up to them to find a proper punishment. And I feel that, to answer your question, due to the 3 incidents that's come before me, I feel that I have dealt with them in a professional way. I have proved the evidence when I took it to the council, and that's the way I would handle something. Not rush into it, thoroughly investigate it, and work with the incident that we have at hand the best way we can. Sometimes it don't always work out like we want it, and have to do things that we don't. That if you're in the wrong and it's proved that you're in the wrong and we can't do nothing but suspend you or terminate you or whatever, I will do my best to uphold that policy and procedure and hold my officers and staff and stuff accountable for their actions.
Thank you again, sir.
I'm good. I have no more questions.
I don't have any more questions.
I just have one final one. Chief Flatt, if data is very important to the community, and it's also very important to the government of Westmoreland. We use data often in everything that we do, and I know as a police department, you use data such as the numbers of traffic stops, the numbers of domestic violence, burglaries, things of that nature that you guys see, and then you put it into data. How do you organize this data personally for you? Do you have a specific way that you organize it so that it's available to the community and to the government so that we can make proper decisions based on that data?
The stats is what we call them. I obtain that through our ECC, which is our dispatch center. I have a system that it's a new system. A lot of the stuff that we was doing before we went to the new dispatch center, we could do, but since we went to the new system, there's some stuff on the new system that we can't do like we did on the old system for stats and certain areas of that, Mr. Brown. But the paper that I've been presenting to y'all or trying to present to y'all with our stats of I don't know how many line items they are, but there's several line items, and then there's 5 or 6 types of calls in there that's higher than others. And I go over that stat sheet every month, and I look at I compare from month to month in those 5 or 6 high number areas that in which calls for service or extra patrols or traffic stops or whatever they may be. I highlight them. Number one, it helps show what my officers has been doing and what kind of calls is coming in to the police department. It helps y'all, keep y'all informed as council members what we've been doing. And there is some grants out there that are based on different stats, safety grants from the Tennessee Highway Safety Office that helps us in some areas get grant money for the department, where it's a DUI checkpoint where we can have extra officers to come in under the grant stuff based on the stats in that area, high traffic area and stuff. So that is a very important tool to use for different areas to focus on.
Thank you. That was a good answer.
Okay, Doug, I have just one more question. It can be brief, okay?
Go for it.
Okay. Of course, Garrett, you're aware that the chief position in the city of Westmoreland is a working position. We don't have the manpower nor the funds to do otherwise. How do you see yourself keeping up with the requirements of your office duties when you might be required to work in the field as a patrol officer on any given day or not?
I'm aware of the working chief's position. I have been out several times with officers and taking calls myself. Sometimes it is hectic. If you have meetings that you need to attend, I've also missed several meetings that I'm required to attend as a police chief, but unfortunately, due to the shortage of officers and having to fill in and take calls, I've missed several meetings that some of them is really mandated. You signed an agreement that you're supposed to attend, and the last 4 or 5 months, I've been unable to attend some of those meetings in which I am required by contract to attend. Granted, that does not look good, but also if a call comes in where another officer that may be busy on his call or her call, you have to step up, and that's part of being a leader. You may not want to, but there comes times where you got to, and that's part of the responsibility that you as a chief ought to be willing to accept, because like I stated earlier, I'm not a one to be sitting behind a desk. I'm a one like to be out with citizens and to be out in the public for citizens to see you and people to see you. And there's been several times that I've took calls and stuff, and we'll continue doing that if need be.
Yeah, I understand, but how do you plan to keep up with your duties, your office and your desk duties? There's lots and lots of requirements there. And if you're always out in the field, how do you see yourself keeping those requirements above water?
Well, you just have to do what you have to do, Ms. Carter. If duties in your office require you to be there, you may have to leave your duties, what you're doing, and go take a call for service, and then come back and finish the duties that you was doing. I think it is very important to fulfill your duties, and you've got to fulfill the duties. But I believe it was one of the council members, maybe Mr. Leaf, earlier, you just got to prioritize what's going on. If something that you was doing at the office and you get a 911 call come in or something, no matter what you're doing at that office, that 911 call is the priority call. You forget what's going on at the office and you can come back and do it later. The main focus is to take care of your 911 call, or not only 911, any call for service I take is important, where it's a burglar alarm or house alarm that I've been to 50,000 times. You never know, you don't get laxed, because that 51st time may be trouble and stuff. So I don't know if, I hope that answers your question. You got to prioritize what your office, I don't feel that you need to, office work is important, but also protecting your citizens and your community is more important than anything that you have to do or can't wait at the office.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I got to totally agree with you there, Mr. Flatt. If I'm needing an ambulance to come to the house, I could really care less what kind of paperwork you've got there to do, and the state or anyone else. And it wraps up our time now. We're just a little bit over, but Chief, I want to give you the opportunity to do a summary, maybe to tell the council members why you should be picked for this position, and we wish you luck.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'll give you a brief. I have had several years of law enforcement, as I stated earlier. I've worked for a couple more different agencies besides Westmoreland. I always love, once again, the small community versus your bigger communities. I feel that my experience, my qualifications that I presented to y'all over my years of experience. Also, I've been with Westmoreland, like I said, the 6th of this month. I started my 6th year with Westmoreland. I love the area in which I work, the citizens in which live here, my employees, my staff. I enjoy working with each and every one of them. And I just won't, I don't want to leave and go nowhere else or nothing. I want to stay in Westmoreland and do my job to the best of my ability with help from different individuals. It's going to take help, but I just love this community and have become to know a lot of great and wonderful people in this area. When I first come here, I live, like I said, about 13 minutes from here in Lafayette, which is Macon County. I know the few people when I come over here, but over the 6 years that I've been here and been able to meet and my job that has allowed me to do so, I just love this community and love the citizens, and I wish and hope and pray to be able to pick up from where I leave off tonight and keep on building the community, making it a stronger community, meeting more people, and doing the best job for the council members and for the citizens and for my employees and staff that I can do as a police chief. That is spoken from my heart, and that is my wishes and my hopes to remain and be the full-time police chief of Westmoreland Police Department.
Chief, we thank you, and I might try to let you know, you were talking about missing meetings. You really haven't missed that many, because most of them have been canceled because of coronavirus. So it doesn't look as bad as you're making it sound there. So we wish you well, and I don't think you have anything on the agenda tonight for the 7 o'clock meeting. So we'll say goodbye to you at this point, and you take care and have a good evening.
Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank you.
I just point out it's 5:50. Try to work in what time do we want to be through with, discussions and interviews and actually decide whether we hire or not.
Okay, I know Miss Carter had spoken to me. She said she may not be ready to put forth a candidate tonight or not. So we was just kind of taking it as we go. Is our next candidate ready, Miss Keisha? Are they ready to be brought on board?
Yes, sir. He's in the waiting room, so I will let him in.
Okay, very good.
Okay, Mr. Jolly, we're going to need you to unmute yourself. Okay, wait.
I think I did.
Okay, good deal.
Ready?
For joining us tonight for members introduce them. Us also, but also helped Ms. Carter. I'll start.
Sorry, I didn't know if she was going to ask her question after she introduced herself or not. My name is Chandra Wilkerson. Again, I'm very thankful for you to be here tonight.
Very nice to meet you.
Nathan Driver. Nice to meet you, Mr. Jolly.
Hey, Nathan. I think I've seen you. You look familiar. I've probably seen you around in Gallatin or something.
Yeah, probably somewhere.
Mr. Jolly, glad to meet you. My name's David Leith.
Yes, sir, Mr. Leith. Good to meet you.
My name is Tony Bennell. Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you, sir. I'm actually eligible tomorrow. I have enough sick time to carry me to my retirement age, which is 53 tomorrow. So this is great timing.
Mr. Jolly, I'm Douglas Brown. Nice to meet you, and thanks for your interest and you being here tonight. Thank you so much.
I believe I've met you, sir. Aren't you the assistant principal at Schaefer?
I am.
Yes.
I
My
am.
daughter went there, Hunter and Nicole Jolly.
Okay, yes.
We'll be starting there in the fall.
Oh, awesome.
Another one to deal with.
That's right. Well, good to meet you. Thanks for being here again.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Jolly, I will start off with the questions. Your name is Stephen Jolly, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
You go by Stephen or Steve?
People ask me that, and most people always shorten it to Steve. I don't have a problem with that, but my wife is kind of funny. She's a Kimberly, and she doesn't like when people call her Kim, so she always gets on to me and tells me to introduce myself as Stephen. So, but I'm
Okay.
actually okay with either.
Well, we probably will refer to Mr. Jolly tonight.
Okay, thank you.
What we're going to do is I'm going to start, and each council member and then Mr. Driver also is going to ask, we're going to ask several rounds of questions to you. So
Okay.
just relax and just give us your answer.
Okay.
Ms. Carter,
Okay,
Ms. Carter.
I'll start out. I see you have 26 years in law enforcement
Yes, ma'am.
and recently retired from Metro Police Department.
I'm not actually retired yet. I am eligible to retire, but I don't want to leave until I know that I've got a good place to land. So I love where I'm at, but I want to get back home and work in a smaller department close to home.
Okay, well, I think you've answered my question with the recent happenings to police officers across the United States. Why do you want to continue on in this line of work when there are other careers that is much safer that you might could go into?
My wife sometimes asks that. Fortunately for me, I was already in law enforcement when I met her, and she's been my best supporter. We've been together for 20 years. She supports me and is very, very supportive of everything I'm doing now with Metro. And sometimes it's funny that even though I'm out there and I'm seeing a lot of the negativity, I have to remind her that there's so many more good people that support us than there are people that do not support us. A lot of the things that I've been working, if I work an extra job, they're not doing as many now because of the COVID, but every time I would work any kind of 5K in uniform security capacity or work some of the Titans games or the Preds game, I have countless people come up thanking me for my service. It's still a very, very worthy profession, and I don't know how to be anything else. That's all I've ever been my entire life, is a police officer and a servant and a protector, and that's what I'll do till I'm no longer able to do it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my question is, have you ever walked into an organization that you don't know anyone? And how do you get to know the staff and community coming in?
Well, I'm a very outgoing person, and I've seen that happen many times. I've done a lot of presentations, a lot of speakings. I've been to a lot of different trainings, and some of the trainings are in other states. Some are here in the state of Tennessee, but often I'll walk into a room and not know a single person there. But the way I get around it is I just always like to go up with a smile and offer my handshake and just meet them, tell them who I am, ask them who they are, and just try to get to know them.
Detective Jolly, recently, or has in the past years had a high. You go about and bringing in younger officers or the department so they don't leave and go to a bigger department. How would you try to manage that goal?
Anytime you're dealing with a smaller department, you are going to have some attrition to larger departments. I did that same thing. I started out at White House. I went to Berry Hill because I knew eventually I wanted to go to Metro, and I was getting my college. And Berry Hill was a good step for me because they used the same police reports, they used the same 10 codes on the radio, and it made it a really good transition for me to go from a small department into Metro. No matter what you do, I think it is always going to be difficult with the smaller department. And I don't think turnover necessarily is that bad if you do have some really good people that come through, if they spend a few years here or at whatever department it might be. And then I don't think you should discourage necessarily people to want to improve their status or maybe do better for their family. But I think there's a lot of things a small department can offer too. I think you can find people like myself that are still young and able to do things, but maybe they've had a full career in the THP or larger departments, and now they're ready to kind of settle down and go to a smaller department. But I think you've got to have good leadership. You've got to respect every person that works, your subordinates and people in the department. Give them an opportunity to express. They're the ones out there doing the actual job. So my philosophy would be I would have an open door policy, and all officer would interject what they think would be good and just get a collective feeling of what they think would be good to attract young officers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, Detective Jolly, coming into a new community, if you are picked as chief police, coming into a brand new community, how would you try to be involved in the community?
Do not know many residents in Westmoreland per se, but I am from Sumner County. I know a lot of people in the area. I think one of the first things I would want to do if I were selected to be chief is I would actually go out and just find people out on their porch and just go up and meet people, tell them who I am, and get their ideas of what they'd like to see in their police department. And just like with the officers, I think you need to know what the things that they dislike that they might like to see change, or the things that they really enjoy about their police. Know what community behind you to be successful, regardless of what size police department it is.
Good, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jolly, give me a couple of significant accomplishments that you're proud of, or a program you started with probably Metro.
Well, I've been very blessed. I've actually been with Metro for a little over 24 years. Last month was my 24th year. Right now, I'm actually, my largest case is, and you all may be familiar with it, I've been working the Tabitha Tudors case for the last 7 years. And I've come to know the family very well. I can't get into detail with it right now, but I've really got some good leads on that, and I believe I'm going to be able to clear that case within the next few weeks. I'm hoping. I'd like to be able to clear that before I possibly make a change to go somewhere else. But I've had some very successful cases. I've been able to do I hope, a lot of good. Experience. I had young men and young women come to me with different situations and problems, and it creates such a good learning environment for these kids to know what the police aren't the bad guys. I recently saw something on social media where there was a young black girl that was crying. She was at one of the demonstrations or protests, and she happened to see her former SRO who was in all of his riot gear, and she became emotional because there was a divide between liked him. And so I think that the 6 years I spent in being an SRO, I hope that I was able to help a lot of people to to maybe have a better life afterwards and have a better understanding of relationships between persons of authority and themselves.
Thank you.
And Mr. John, data is very important to a police department. Can you describe a time or a position that you've had to prepare and analyze and interpret statistical information?
A cold case homicide detective. We work all high profile, not just homicides and cold cases. We work, for instance, I had the church shooting in Antioch. That was a very large national event. And so there was a lot of statistics and data that I had to compile. And I had more than one meeting with the command staff, which consisted of the chief, the 5 deputy chiefs, and a few captains. And I've had to present, many times I've had to present before those large boards and give them, they do want, and I can, they want know areas and things like that. So I'm very well accustomed to that.
Good, thank you.
I don't know how much experience you've had in managing a budget, but as chief, that's a responsibility in Westmoreland. And you know that the city budget runs from July the 1st to June the 30th. And you're allocated X amount.
I understand that emergencies happen, situations happen that you can't control, or more, and have spent that much of the budget. But with that in mind, you've just got to find ways to be more efficient, to cut money where you can. Obviously, you've got to still provide the protection for your citizens, and you've got to still be able to provide that same type of service. But there's always some things that you can do to help kind of cut that budget a little bit. I did run a construction company while I was a police officer for about 5 years, from 2004 until 2008. My wife, when she got pregnant with our first child, she just was able to stay home with both of our children. She still stays home now. And at the time, it was a drastic cut from her $20-something thousand a year salary. So I took that on while I was an SRO, because I had my evenings free and Saturdays, and I worked a lot. But I had to do a budget, and I had to pay subcontractors, and I got a lot of business experience from that aspect. And it was a successful business, but when I became an investigator, I knew that I worked so many more hours, there was no way I could continue. 2008.
Okay, thank you.
Did I answer your question, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
How would you describe your management style?
Well, I mentioned earlier, I believe in an open door policy. And from a detective's viewpoint, it doesn't hurt my feelings if I have a case that I'm just kind of going nowhere with. It's always a good idea to put another set of eyes on it, to let someone else take a look at it. They may see something that I didn't see. And so I think it's really important. You shouldn't have people do something that you wouldn't be willing to do yourself. And then you also need to get input from your custodial staff all the way up to your managers to know. And I think it's really important that a manager of any position, whether it be in law enforcement or any type of other thing, you need to know what each one of your individual employees, all the way down to the janitor, the custodial people, you need to know how they do their job, what they do, and you ask them, what could we do better that would make your job better, which in turn would also make them more happy, which would make them much more productive employees. And in turn, it would make the whole company run better if you include everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, unfortunately, Chandra has stole both of my questions out from under me tonight, so I had to look down and grab another one real quick.
I've had that happen. I understand.
I'm sure you've given it some thought since since you applied for this job and since you've received a phone call that you'd be doing an interview. But have you thought about having like a goal, 5-year goal that you would like to see the department at?
Well, I have received a little information that unfortunately right now there will need to be some new hires, obviously. My goal would be to have a fully staffed department with excellent trained officers and a very happy community with the job that they're doing, and have good comments coming in from citizens doing it. That would be my biggest goal.
Good, thank you.
Yes.
I think we skipped Nathan, didn't we?
We did.
Yes,
That's
we
fine.
did. So go ahead, Nathan.
You're good.
Sorry, Nathan.
No, you're good, David. Being a small department, what do you see your command staff looking like, or your support staff looking like? And would you be willing to delegate responsibilities to those people, even with it being a small department?
Oh, definitely. I think you've got to delegate. You've got to be able to delegate. Thought, I believe that currently there is allocations to have 8 full-time officers, including the chief, if that's not correct, or is it 8? Is it chief and 8 officers? I think that's the information that I've gotten. I've done a little bit of investigation.
That is correct.
Okay, so with that in mind, obviously you can't have too many chiefs and not enough Indians. So you've got to, but you've got to have at least a couple of people that you can delegate to, because if you're the chief and you become ill, you've got to have someone that kind of knows what you do to go ahead and run and take care of the things that you would normally do. And you need to have their input as well. And I think there needs to be a chain of command, even on a small department. You've got to have your newer officers need to have someone that they can go to without necessarily having to go in and talk to the chief. There's got to be at least a couple there to have a decent, good chain of command. And so, and even at a small department, I would certainly assume that the chief would have to delegate a lot, because there's no, that would have to be done on a police department of any size.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I guess it's my turn now. I'm a dollar man. I'm going to go strictly for the juggler vein, okay? You
Yes,
put
sir.
on your application that you desired the salary of $52,000, and you said with no benefits, and I just want to clarify what that means to you. I know what it means, but what does that mean to you, no benefits?
Well, I want to be, in the fact that I have done a little bit of investigation about how things have gone in the past. When I applied for the position, of course, knowing that I'll have a pension, I felt like I certainly would deserve, I felt like if the range was 48 to 52, that I do have the experience that I should be on the high end of that. And I put no benefits because I knew that I just kind of wanted to reiterate that I'll have my benefits from Metro, so I wouldn't require health. I would certainly like to work on a second pension. So if you all are in the participate in that, but I would not need any health benefits. But I also am under the understanding that, and I know that it's going to take probably the first several months, whoever does come in there, there's going to be a lot more work to be done than just a 40-hour or 43-hour work week. And I know that under police and fire, they can actually work 43 hours without getting overtime. I would like to be compensated if I am the one that's chosen to take the job, that if I am working 60 hours a week, that I'd either be able to get overtime, or that if we could forego my benefits and raise that salary up so that it would account for, because I know that benefits cost a lot of money. And if the city wouldn't have to pay my health insurance, my hope would be that the city would be able to increase my salary if I'm going to be expected to work 50 and 60 hours a week on a regular basis.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it'd be a regular basis, but it may be some. So what I hear you're saying, at $52,000, you'd be okay with no benefits, because that would save the city roughly $7,000 or $8,000 on health insurance.
Yes, sir.
So that's kind of a trade-off there that we have to consider. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But my question deals with a little more relevancy. If you're chosen as chief of police, what do you feel would be the most important things that you would need to do the first 30 days?
Well, one of the first things I would want to do certainly is I would want to see the personnel files of the individuals that are already employed there, to know and to meet with each one of them to get to know them, what their strongnesses are, what their weaknesses are, try to work on the weaknesses, try to figure out the best way we could to get the word out and to recruit and try to get some more people in there. I know that one of the things that is very expensive for small departments to be able to do is to put an officer through the academy. The academy itself isn't so expensive, but you've got an officer that you're having to pay a salary to while they're not giving the city any benefit really because they're in the academy. That's something that obviously I would have to talk with the council about. But I'm afraid that it could be difficult without officer potential of putting one through an academy per year or something like that if it could be budgeted in. But I think that's the most important thing, is try to get the manpower that needs to be there and get good quality people that want to be there and want to do a good job.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, my next question, I'm going to kind of combine two questions into one. Mr. Jolly, you are aware that the chief position in Westmoreland, correct? Do
Yes.
you understand that?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Because we don't have the manpower nor the funds to do otherwise at this point.
No, I understand. I wouldn't be happy
with
just
us
sitting behind
being-
the desk all the time.
Pardon
I'm
me?
sorry, I wouldn't be happy just sitting behind the desk all the time. I like to get out and work as well.
Okay. With us being a small community of less than 2,500 residents, it's very critical, and chief know their citizens in their community and develop a good, close relationship with them. And also the other half of that is your skills and your experience, which according to your resume and your work history, you surpass those qualifications over and above. How do you see yourself developing this close relationship? Like we have local restaurants that a lot of the officers go to and mingle with the citizens, but how do you see, with you being an outsider, how do you see developing that close relationship?
Well, I grew up in the small town of Cross Plains, Tennessee. And when I was a young boy, I worked in tobacco and hay, and I did all that fun stuff. And I'm really a country boy at heart who moved to the city to do a career for a while. But one of my strong points is that I'm generally able to get along with and have a conversation with anyone. And I'm an outgoing person, and I like to meet new people. That's one of the things I love about this work, is that I'm always getting to meet new people. I would be one that if I come to work in a small city, I'm going to look forward to going out and meeting people and getting to know them and talking with them. And I've got a vast experience in that from work. I've been very fortunate and blessed that one of the reasons I went to Metro is so that I could really have a good rounded career. And having spent time doing drug enforcement, working in the schools, and then working as an investigator, I can get along with people from all walks of life.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I actually do not have a question for this round, so I'll.
Dr. Jolly, how would you deal with a disgruntled employee or somebody that's causing problems in the workplace or out in the community?
I'm sorry, how would I deal with it?
Yes, sir.
Well, if obviously I want to get, I prefer, it's not always going to be the case, but I would prefer to have someone do a formal complaint in writing if they're having a particular situation. I realize that there are times that you might have someone come, I have to assist them, but if they have a complaint about someone, if it's strong enough that they feel like it's an issue that needs to be addressed right away, I think it'd be important for them to be able to come to myself or someone directly under me and file a formal complaint. And then it needs to be investigated fully. If an officer is doing wrong or treating people with disrespect, there's got to be some type of a system or maybe like a matrix, depending on what those violations are, that an officer knows if you do this particular infraction, these are the consequences that you may face because of that. And if, depending on the severity of it, some of those could include termination. I mean, obviously you've got to respect the citizens that you work for. police officers have to be a servant in heart. You're working for the people, and that's your priority.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I've got no further questions either.
All right, let me unmute myself first. Now I can ask my question.
Okay.
Given the scenario that you already had a fully stocked officer, and everyone's been to the academy, and so you're ongoing and you're with your police force training for continuous improvement for your officers.
But actually, you said one word there is continuous. You have to, most of the things that police officers do, if you don't continually do that type of practice, they're perishable skills. So I think that there has to be continuous training. And I'm at a larger department now where we have set training when we go to our academy. But one of the things that I liked about when I worked at White House and at Berry Hill, there's different training that an officer can choose to go through throughout the state. And with a small interested in being, say, a armorer in the particular firearms that you're issued, let that individual go to do that as their core in-service training, and try to let the best that you can let each officer kind of have a forte of to be able to do their own thing, and so that you've got a good mixed bag. You might have an officer who's been to a lot of drug schools that can help and give assistance to the other officers who may not have as much knowledge in that. And then you'll have officers that are armorers or gunsmiths that let everyone get different, I can't think of the correct word, but to be specialized in a particular area of training.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very important that officers and today they're so scrutinized that they constantly need that training, and the training shifts from time to time, where one day it's important for one aspect and the next day it's important for another. So thank you for the answer. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have no further questions, Doug, if you want to take this back up. We appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us tonight.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mr. Jolly, at this point, we certainly want to thank you once again for your interest in Westmoreland.
Yes,
I know you've done your homework as an investigator and a detective. No doubt that you probably know one applied for a job. I will say that I spent a little time behind the desk at KIA 233 many years ago, probably when you were still in diapers. So, but it's an excellent place, and it's a good training ground. We want to give you the opportunity to take a few minutes here and just maybe do a summary and tell us why we should put you in this position, and anything that you want to add to it.
Okay, I'll be glad to do that. I'll be glad to do that. Well, I started out in a small town. I started working at White House. I spent almost 2 years there. And even though eventually I did gravitate and go to Metro, I always enjoyed working the small area. It's just, it's me, it's where I grew up. And I knew that one day, and I told my wife when I met her, in fact, that after I've gotten a good for me to retire from the larger department, I would like to go to a smaller department, maybe as chief, and spend the rest. Right now, my health remaining the same. I've got young kids. I have an 11-year-old. My hope is to go somewhere like Westmoreland and spend the next 10 or 15 years and just stay there. And I just really enjoy working in a small community. And I think I've got a lot to bring because I have been in a large city and I've done so much. I've done undercover street and drug enforcement. I've done the school work. I was bike certified. I've been an investigator. all crimes. And then the last 8 years, I've been a homicide cold case detective. So I've had an opportunity to travel and see other departments. And I've gotten some really good ideas from other departments that I think that would help me in a position such as this.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm not sure exactly how the council is going to approach the rest of the evening. We have a regular meeting at 7 o'clock. We're going to discuss it a little bit after this meeting. So we will wish you well once again, and we will be in touch with you.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, council members, how do you want to progress with this? Do you want a few days and call a special call meeting to make the appointment, or do you want to move ahead at this point? How do you feel about things? Is there adequate time to discuss what you want to talk about?
I'm ready to move ahead tonight.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
may, this is a very important decision that we are going to make. And it is a key, one of our very key positions in our city. It's a very tough position. And we just got a chance to interview 2 excellent candidates, no doubt about it. I would make a motion that we defer the decision tonight so that we can each have time to process this information that we've heard and give it a quality, thorough analysis of who we truly want to lead our police department and make the best circumstances. We've already had an interim. We know that the city is doing well with that interim currently. And so I would like to make a motion that we defer our decision until a future date.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Brown to defer this until a future date so that more data can be collected and analysis be done. Is there?
I second.
Okay, I believe I heard Ms. Carter come in. Is that correct?
Yes, and Chandra did too, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. So we have a second by Ms. Carter, and we're open for discussion.
So I'm not sure what we're going to learn if we postpone it a week or 2 weeks or whatever. I heard our questions and their answers. I don't know what we got to process. I've got some information I'd like to put on the table, whether it be tonight or later. I'm happy to go ahead and bring it tonight. I've done a little checking myself ahead of time. If y'all want to hear it, I'll share it with you.
Well, let's see how the vote goes on deferral. And if it's deferred, then we'll pick it up at the next meeting. If it's voted down, we'll hear it tonight. So,
Okay.
Chandra, if you will call the roll for the vote, and the motion is to defer.
Well,
Keisha.
Are we out of discussion? Are we out of discussion on the motion?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought that we were done.
No, I've got no problem either way, but I would like to know what that date's going to be. I think it needs to be pretty quick.
Could we not do it maybe 30 minutes before our next work study? What's that, 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Actually,
I'm
it's 30.
open. I'm open for anything that you want.
We have an extra week this month.
Oh, okay. Well, then if we could pick out one one day that's feasible for everyone and just do, I mean, it wouldn't take us less than 15 minutes, I don't think.
We can also
It's going to be a Zoom meeting regardless, so.
and we may decide of this. So that's a possibility as well.
Well, I think we need to call a meeting. We don't need to wait, I don't think.
Okay. We'll see what, how the vote goes here. Ms. Keisha?
Chandra Wilkerson,
Yes.
Tony Bennell,
No.
David Leith,
Yes.
Rita Carter,
Yes.
Doug Brown.
Yes.
Change my vote to yes.
Okay, the motion carries. We'll say it's unanimous then, to defer. Do we want to pick a date, for it now, or we want to look at it for a couple of days?
Let's set a date.
School registration's coming up, so we'll have to play with that.
Okay, what dates is that?
July 27th through the 29th. I believe that'd be the same for Mr. Brown too.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, I'm ready to move on with it. You know, give us, is the weekend long enough for everybody to process this?
I was
think
gonna
so.
say, you think, Tuesday, the 21st would be good?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. The 21st at 7:00 p.m. And it'll be for the purpose of hiring a police chief. And that will be a Zoom meeting.
What time did you say it was going to be?
7.
Ross, you've been real helpful doing this, and Chief Ray has also.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Y'all for allowing me the opportunity to do it. I appreciate it.
And Frida, you also, and Keisha for her hard work for going through all these applications and keeping them organized. Just an excellent job. So,
Apps made our job so easy.
Yes.
so we will call this meeting adjourned, and I'll see you at.
That's it.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right.
Y'all have a good night. Thank y'all.